way, and then if I can, you can write the sections. Right. So if you're not here.
Yeah.
All right, 6B. So this is if there's a tenant in the house, which you, again, you can tell because you've been to the house at least twice. So you know if somebody lives there, you'll find out from the other agent if there's a tenant. So we need to figure out before we write the offer if the tenant's going to stay or not. Otherwise, we expect the tenant to be out. If the tenant decides to stay and it's okay, so they're missing everything, and I'm not gonna repeat it. But it's recorded somehow, right? If the tenant decides to stay and it's okay with the new buyer's financing. Because if it's FHA, they can't stay for a long, how long is it? If it's FHA, they can stay for 30 days or something.
The tenant?
Yeah. I don't think it can stay very long, but again, we need to know beforehand if the tenant plans to be out or not. So if there's a tenant in there, we need to know if they're gonna stay in there. If they stay in there, we have our new owner, our new buyer has two options. They can offer the tenant a new lease, or they can honor the lease that the tenant has. So that's between the landlord and the tenant, because your buyer is gonna be a landlord. But if there is a lease, if there is a tenant in there, including seasonal and short-term rentals, after the closing, then we need a estoppel from the current owner and the current tenant. If the tenant decides to stay and it's okay with your buyer's financing, then we need an estoppel for the landlord and the tenant. What's an estoppel?
It's a letter from like the HOA or. Right?
What does the estoppel tell you?
If everything is good with the property and the taxes is paid,
Right.
the
Estoppel is all about that person's version of the financials. So it's the HOA's version of the financials. Is everything paid? Are there any fines? Are they okay to go? Now with the landlord estoppel, it's the same thing. When you have a lease, did you get first, last, and security? Right? How much money is in there?
So if the tenant is like a month, because like me, I'm renting my house, my place is being sold. It's in the process of being sold, it's listed right now, so.
So the tenant will be out.
Okay,
So that's all I need to know, that the tenant's gonna be out.
okay,
And
you
then
have to notify to them, right?
I would put that on page 11 of the contract,
okay.
that the tenant will be out. So I would not check this because the tenant's gonna be out. And on page 11, I would dictate what the terms are for the tenant to be out. I wouldn't just leave it blank. I want to acknowledge the tenant is there. But if there's a lease, typically there's some kind of financial issue with landlord and tenant. So I want the landlord's version. I also want the tenant's version, because the landlord would say, they don't owe me anything. I mean, I don't owe them anything. And the tenant's like, I gave them first, last, security, and another last. Two different stories, right? Or the landlord says, he did this damage, the HOA has a fine on it, I don't know, he ran into the gate, they're charging me $500, I want the tenant to pay for it. Tenant's not gonna tell you, that's why I want two different estoppels. The your closing agent can write the estoppels, you just have to ask for them. So put a note in there that if the tenant is staying, to have your closing agent get two estoppels, one from the landlord and one from the tenant. You have to ask for it, it's not automatic.
And Dolores, who pays for the estoppel? The seller?
Whatever you guys agree to.
Okay, because my thought was, if a person wants a loan, they should be the one paying for it.
Yeah, if it's a regular estoppel, but this is
Yes.
landlord tenant, it's a little different.
Okay,
I wouldn't expect the tenant,
right,
if you
To
want me to
pay
believe
them,
your story, I'm not gonna expect you to pay for it,
right.
right? So, but it does mention in here. So it says deposit, releasing buyer, blah, 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 and the tenant estoppel letters shall not be required for, but we want estoppels for everybody else. So it's in there, but you have to ask for it. Assignability. We finished on that one? Assignability. Step one. The buyer, you've got the buyer. May assign and release themselves from any obligations of the contract. The middle one. He may assign but not be released from performing on the contract. And the last one is may not assign. Now, I'm the listing agent. I don't want any assignments. I want that buyer all the way through. But there are some circumstances where I would have to do it. For instance. If they plan on purchasing the house. And then they switch it over to an LLC, but I need them to purchase in their primary name and at closing, we switch it over. That's an assignability. But not release of anything. Who is that?
An agent.
Henry?
With Neil. I haven't seen him in a while. Yeah,
Henry.
yeah.
His wife does my hair.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Joseph Henry.
Oh, he's here. He's here.
I think that's who it is. Yeah.
Oh.
So. I don't like assignabilities, but if needed, you can assign but not be released. Cause if we don't close, I'm keeping your money. Right? Simple. But the other one may be assigned and be released. I have no examples of that. And I would never let someone write a contract and then assign it and have no obligation. My seller's stuck.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly, it's not like, it's don't look like a good buyer.
Yeah, it's not a good buyer for if I'm on the listing side. So,
But if you were the buyer's agent, what would you check?
The second.
I don't want any assignments. As an agent, I don't want assignments. If I know it's because they wanna do an LLC or a trust, I mean, I would ask, if they say it needs to be assigned. Oh, so tell me why. I wanna add someone on, I wanna change it, that's fine,
But
just tell me why.
on a normal one, you're just may not assign this contract.
Normally, like 80% of the time, no assignment, and then the other 18% may assign but not be released, and maybe 2%, which I have 0% to share with you.
Maybe the second, right, will be.
Second, yeah, second
Like,
is
more than
not bad.
It's not bad.
Yeah, I just don't want you to walk, because I'm taking my house off the market, which could
Yeah.
lose a lot of money nowadays, right? Yeah. You're off the market for a month, you could lose like 20-30% of you already had a problem with it, yeah. Not a good time to do that. Financing. This is cash. What's cash?
Cash.
Easy.
No, seriously, what's cash?
Like money in the bank.
Money in the bank, whose bank?
For the buyer,
Buyers.
buyer buying.
What bank?
They're
American.
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 Not overseas,
I am out of the US.
not overseas. I don't care.
Mexico?
No.
No.
Sorry. Bring it over. We're good.
And show how you get that money.
Okay, and do I want proof of funds?
Yes,
Proof of funds in whose name?
for the person who's buying the
Not their
contract.
boss, not a relative,
No.
not anybody else. It must be in their name. 401, is 401k cash?
No.
No. It's an other. It's not financing, but it is an other. Because someone else has control to stop it. Is an other. It's not financing, but it's contingent on something. What's a financing contingency? Cause it says cash with no financing contingency. What's a financing contingency?
Now you need to sell a house to have the cash or.
Yeah, it's a contingency. I could write an addendum, right? I could. But that's. It says no financing
If
contingency.
Uncle Bob said he's gonna give you some money.
No,
Oh,
I don't trust Uncle Bob.
that would be a contingency.
Yeah, that's not cash. Uncle Bob's money is not cash.
Right.
Yeah, so that's not cash. Give me another
Appraisal?
financing, appraisal. See, you can get an appraisal, but it cannot be a financing contingency.
Oh,
So if it's cash and you want an appraisal, you need an appraisal addendum,
oh,
right? Because this does not provide you with an appraisal addendum. So you'd have to say, okay, it's cash, but I'm getting an addendum.
401k,
401K,
that's financing.
other. 401K, other. Cause it could be tied up and you won't get it, so making an other. And the reason why we do it is so that if it doesn't happen, we can release their deposit. Cause if I put cash, I won't release the deposit as a listing agent. So that's why I make it financing other is 401K, cause a 401K is a self-finance. It's my money, it's a self-finance. Now, if something happens and you go back to your brokers or other agents, and they say, no, don't say the word said.
You better say that.
But the law said, no. I'm just joking, you can say the words of opinion. Opinion, okay. So if it's cash, I want full cash. If it's contingent, and then if it's blank, what are you gonna do? Right, write the number in, so, if it's contingent on 30 days after effective date is your loan approval period, so that's the commitment. The loan approval is the commitment. There's no guarantees from any bank of 100% that you're going to get the loan. But it is an approval and a commitment. Make sure that whatever number you put in here, you have at least a week before closing.
Okay, this is a long commitment,
This
right?
is the loan commitment.
Before I fill that out, you guys better be talking to that.
Loan officer.
Some loan officer, I can get your loan commitment in 7 days.
So, no,
No, never take days from your contract. Because once you take days from your contract, you're just screwing your buyer.
there's too much involved, right? So first of all, with the loan officer. And then there could be condo approval or homeowner association. We might have a problem with insurance, so we wanna make sure we have time. So we wanna have,
Going simple.
we need, the loan officer should give you a date. Right, now, if there's no HOA, no condo, no nothing, and the loan officer says 7 days, add 5 days. Because I need a gap between here and closing, but I have that 3-day thing that I have to worry about. And in case it's over, we can just give me a gap, give me some time to work with. If you make it too tight, they can lose their deposit.
So right there when it's within, and then just put the date that we need it by.
Well, you've spoken to the loan officer, and let's say, he says, I say I can close it in 7 days, because there's nothing, there's no HOA, no condo, nothing that could disrupt this, right? And he says 7 days, I would add 5 days on it, I would make it 12 days.
Or
Oh,
fair
that's why it's always the number of days, right?
You just add it on and put the number of days here, this is number of days, so whatever the loan, whatever your financial person says, add 5 to 7 days on. I need time.
Okay.
Because if you give it to me within the 3-day period of the CFPB, we're gonna have a problem. And don't give me a loan date, commitment date after closing,
It's my, yeah.
yeah. Like if you put, we're closing on January 31st, and you put 20 days here, I'm gonna, yes, this is commitment. If reverse, if you put January 20th and you put 30 days here, we have a problem. And you could have lost their deposit. Could have, I'm not saying you will, but you could have, because we might have a problem. So you gotta talk, it's not just us, right? There's more people involved in this transaction. Anything that has to do with the financials, you have to go directly to the loan officer. Don't call me and say, what time can I put in here, what day? I don't know. Know your buyers? I wouldn't say it like that, but.
But,
like
but that's true, you don't know
spoken to
nothing
the
about the
Lord.
contract. Be the
I
magic.
would say it, I would say. Okay. And from this point on, we want to be a little safe, so when it says that the buyer's gonna obtain an approval for conventional, FHA, VA, or other, so here's your 401K. But in here, it could be flexible, I mean, we could change it, so let's say we started with FHA, we can go to conventional, so don't get too worried about that. But in the next section where it says, this one, I think this one could be colored, oh. Well, yeah, no, never mind. So where it says fixed, adjustable, use fixed or adjustable. So that if they don't get one of them, they can't back out and say, well, the contract says fixed and I got an adjustable, so I want out. No, pick fixed or adjustable. I don't care what they tell you.
Okay, always.
Always fixed, if there's a loan, it's fixed or adjustable, always the third one. And where it says not to exceed. The interest rate not to exceed. If you leave it blank, it's prevailing rate based on the buyer's credit worthiness. So I don't like blank, so put PRV.
And
Just
term
put
of the-
PRV. Because it does say if left blank, it's prevailing rate based on buyer's credit worthiness, but just put PRV, we're good. If you can fit the whole word prevailing, that's okay too.
PR,
V, like prevailing, PR.
That line, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
it's a 993.
92.
91.
Oh my gosh.
No, this is on line 92. 92.
I 92 we put PRV?
Not to exceed.
PRV.
Not to exceed prevailing.
Okay.
It's whatever they qualified for. As it says on their credit worthiness. So if their loan officer says that they're getting an 11% mortgage, so be it. Not my problem, your credit. Take it.
But on line 90, they.
Uh-huh,
they
that's
check
it.
like one.
That's
One
my
of them?
line 90, you'll pick one.
Okay.
And other would be, an example is 401k. The next one is the last one. 91, fixed or adjustable, don't use these. Not using. And this one is prevailing, and then it says for a term of, if left blank, then 30, put 30. If they can get 15, great, it's better. But we don't wanna give them a way out, cause if you put 15 and they get qualified for 30, they get a way out. Does that make sense?
So you're putting
30,
30.
Sorry.
if left blank 30, put 30. The next one, 97, I forgot the line numbers, buyer shall make an application, you know. They should have already done it, right? But. If left blank, then what? Five, make the application within 5 days after effective date, it should be done. It's the buyer's responsibility to keep the seller informed. How does the buyer keep the seller informed? You're the buying agent, I'm the listing agent. How does the buyer keep the seller informed of everything that's going on?
Through us.
Through the
emailing them.
us.
Through who?
Through us.
Through the agent.
buyers, through the seller
They
agent.
tell you,
And you tell them.
you tell me,
Mhm.
I tell the seller, because you can't talk directly
Yeah,
to the
through
seller.
the seller.
Okay, so it's saying,
Use the lawyer's favorite saying, become a parent.
that's what you are, that's all you're doing, that's all you're doing. Don't make stuff up. Just repeat. You can't
Yeah,
get in
exactly,
trouble,
just-
do not make stuff up. You're not attorneys, you're not financial advisors, you're salespeople. I always tell people, hey, I'm just a salesperson, don't ask me any questions, I'm not that smart.
I just repeated that. what you said.
Alright, alright.
Two of them.
Have any questions? Talk to your attorney. Talk to the title company, talk to your lender, don't ask me any questions. I can't figure out my commission. Well, yeah, I can. That's all I know. I can. That's joking. But seriously, you're the source of the source or you're a parrot. You can tell them where to go or you can repeat what somebody else says, but that's it. Be very careful. I don't care how much you know. I don't care how many transactions are 100% identical because they're not. And you can't make any assumptions. Well, I did this last month, and last month, no. Nope. That's how we get in trouble. That's why you have errors and omissions insurance, but don't lean on it. I can tell your E&O has a $7,000 deductible. Sue. Don't. Like regular insurance. If during the loan approval period, buyer gets the loan approval, buyer has to let everybody know, right? We're good with that? If buyer does not get the loan approval within the period, they can terminate the contract in writing. Your dates are so critical. You know, Your first three deals are gonna be, oh, Linda. Oh, Linda, your first 3 deals are the hardest. And I would say take the extra minute and do the following. Once the contract is executed, print it and write the dates in everywhere. That's what I would do. Like here, if they have to obtain the loan approval, I would put the date of when the loan approval, that's just for me. I would print it off and write the
Just check
dates
when
in
it
here,
has to be
so
done
I know what I'm doing.
I'm just like so like on it because of you, thank you. Whenever I have an executing contract, I send it out like to title
Yeah.
everyone.
With the dates.
With all the dates.
Yeah.
And that way we're all on the same page.
That's what I do also, but I like to, like, for your first 3 years, because you're new, I would just write these things in there, you don't have to, but yes, so you gotta be careful with these dates. If the buyer fails to timely deliver, now. The buyer may fail to do it, but who gets blamed? You, buyer's agent. If the buyer doesn't do something, who gets blamed? You. Everything's your fault.
Yeah.
And if you talk to the title company, whose fault is it? You. It's all your fault. Yeah. If the buyer fails to deliver any written notice provided in paragraph to the seller, then the buyer continues as if it was provided. Which means if they if they don't have the commitment, and we're at the commitment date, and you let it go a day longer, your buyer has now bought that house, whether they're approved or not. And so if they don't get the loan, they lost, I know, they lost $30,000. So if you don't have a commitment by the commitment date and you let the buyer go on and don't tell the other side, it is assumed the commitment date was met. And if we cancel or do anything after that, let's say the loan denial came in 2 days after commitment date. $30,000. And that might be the lender's fault because they didn't provide it in time, but because you didn't get out of the contract by the commitment date, you just lost them $30,000. Am I scaring you?
Yes.
Good.
What if you have the sell side and the other side is not communicating? And-
Okay, I'm the list side, so talk to me as if you're got the buy side.
Okay, so I'm calling you today, say, you know, that, the approval period ends today, you have. you
Send
know,
me a cancellation. Either give me a commitment or a cancellation.
But if they're not communicating.
I sent it on time and I have everything in an email sent on time, signed on time by the buyer, sent to you in an email, attachment and everything. I can only do so much. And if they don't answer within a day or so, then get the brokers involved. But I'm gonna look for,
But am I
very
going
strong
to
dates.
the loan officer saying I need a commitment letter?
They can
yeah, but
always-
if the loan, you talking to the loan officer still gives me, the listing agent, a way to get $30,000. Because it says, if written notice of termination to the seller prior to the expiration of loan approval period. Provided by the buyer is not in default, that's okay, he'll get his deposit, but if the buyer doesn't. By effective date, however, seller can elect to cancel the contract within 3 days, but if I see $30,000 or more here. I'm not terminating.
You will ask him for the cancellation.
I'm like,
letter or
we're canceling
something.
and I'm getting the money,
Exactly.
cause I'm on the listing side,
Yeah, of
right?
course.
But if the buyer sends that, then they get their money back.
Maybe. There's no guarantees, because I'll still fight over it,
Would you actually?
yeah. 30,000 pretty much covers my commission, I'll fight over it. 15,000 commission for me, yeah, we're fighting over it. It won't last very long. Because if we get the brokers involved, we have a problem. So the seller can deliver written notice within 3 days after expiration of loan approval. I don't get to, but if the buyer proceeds above and has been checked effective date, only the seller. If buyer has, let's go down, because that's just covering the seller. This is so cool. If buyer has timely provided written notice and buyer fails to close the contract. Written notice is the same as not providing notice. The deposit shall be paid to the seller. Unless. But it goes to the seller. Now, there's a weird thing in the listing agreement. That says that if we default, we're splitting the money. So me and my seller have a listing agreement. And in there it says, if the buyer defaults, we're splitting the money.
That's the reason you fight for that. Tina, they're like,
Yes,
"That's
I
happened,
have
right?"
money. So
And
I
then
would
you
get
put-
15
And
and
you're
he would
listing
get 30.
again the property.
Wait, I only have 30,000. Oh, I get 15, he gets 15, and then I sell it again, because I still have a listing. So the agreements class is next week, that's when we cover the listing agreement.
Oh.
Are we okay? Do we understand this?
Commitment that you have to. be
The
very
loan
careful.
commitment is important. Do we understand? Either deliver a commitment or deliver a cancellation
Or
Before.
can you do an addendum for an extension?
or an extension. And the extension is extend the close date and the commitment date. That's that extension.
So,
Very good.
so on the day that's supposed, the effective date, if you send in if I send you the extension on that day, but you don't respond, I would.
Well,
Effective date.
yeah, as long as, I wouldn't wait till like 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
Okay, because my buyer has to sign everything.
Mhm.
So I know the day before. And then, so if I send it, so supposing today was commitment date, I send everything last night to my buyer and I tell the buyer, look, I'm not gonna send it in, not tonight, but I need you to sign it. So when I talk to your lender tomorrow, if I don't have a commitment, we're ready.
Okay.
So I get it done in advance. It doesn't mean I'm gonna use it. It means the buyer already signed it, which is one less thing for me, right?
Yeah.
Cause if I can remove the stress, I'm removing the stress.
Okay, but like I said, like if I'm asking you, you're the seller.
Oh.
I'm asking you for an extension. And you don't, let's say you don't respond,
Hmm.
how do you go about it then?
Well, if everything came to me and you can document like that, an email was sent, don't give me text messages, but an email with the attachment and everything was defined. I'll call the broker.
Mhm.
And I'll let them know so that the broker can act, because something could have happened to the other agent, right? Because life happens.
Yeah.
You know, maybe he's hungover and he can't read it. I don't know. So. I don't know, life happens.
Yeah.
I don't want anything too serious. So I will call, so broker to broker, ask me to step in.
Okay.
You can call the broker too and say, hey, I went through this. Don't give them a long story. Just say, I sent the extension yesterday. I haven't heard, is the agent okay? And they're like, oh, hell yeah. And so you're like, I just need that sign because we want to continue.
Okay.
Yeah, doesn't mean they have to sign it. They can back out, but if they back out, you can at least ask for the deposit.
Okay.
There's no guarantees in anything. Cool?
Yeah.
All right. So does Patty at the front desk. Careful, she doesn't wear it on the same day.
You're gonna make her never wear it again.
Has to be paid by the seller. So this is not everything, right? This is just a sample so that they don't go into sticker shock when we get to closing and they see that, they're like, oh, I didn't tell you about all that. So we'll just kind of go over this with them. I go over it with my seller once. Right, I'll go over the contract with them once, like a week or two after we go into under listing, I go over the contract with them so that there's no surprises. So by the time I do send one, I can just say, remember we talked about that? No, don't remember anything, all right. But I go over that, other,
$4.95.
$4.95.
Yeah, because I already.
What do we call that fancy thing?
It's the,
So we don't call our transaction fee here?
it's the.
Compliance.
Regulatory compliance fee, KW regulatory compliance fee $4.95 if you got the seller. If you got the buyer,
$4.95.
regular. KW, I just made up a fancy word.
Yeah.
Ask me twice.
Regulatory. Compliance and.
KW regulatory compliance fee $4.95, whether you have the buyer or the seller. If you have both, what do? Don't charge one $0 and the other one $4.95. How awful. What?
That's from both for
Yes. Yes. Take the money.
Yeah, because you have to pay transaction coordinator.
So our transaction coordinator is $350, so. this this $4.95 that we collect, we add on to the agent's commission. So they can charge $9.95, I don't care. They can charge $0, I don't care.
Yeah.
It's commission, if you wanna give your commission away, we treat it like commission. You wanna give your commission away, give it away, I don't care. But if you have both sides, make it equal. Give them both a break, I'm like, I'll give you a break, $4.50 each side. Alright,
Dolores, I've seen agents are on the other side for your buyer, or your.
wrong.
It's like happening more and more.
If that does happen, I'll take it out of the $4.95.
What do you say you see?
I've
The
seen
other
agents charge like our clients a transaction fee, so
Yeah.
I had to remove mine, because I wasn't gonna let him get.
But I would make that very clear.
I was like, what is that about?
If I have to remove mine, I would say waive regulatory compliance fee. I would say waive, because I want everyone to see that that came from me.
Okay.
So you're saying,
How did you negotiate down her, like, no, you're not.
So it's usually some kind of a corporation like, Lori Reader does it, because she works for Zillow. And so she doesn't want to pay for those things, so she charges it, she does like $150. Oh, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So she.
I would take it out of the $4.95. I wouldn't waive the whole thing, I would take it out of the $4.95, and I would let them know. Yeah. That's horrible.
So that regulatory compliance fee is essentially,
Transaction.
what's transaction fees?
It's just a fancy word, so I don't ask you.
What is that? So it's right.
So you've never heard? I program it.
Does it apply to cabinets? Do you have cabinet?
Did you cap?
No, does that $4.95 bring to the amount?
We can have commission, so whatever is part of the commission goes to cap, this goes to. It moves you up a little bit closer on there. And if you're capped, it's all yours.
No, yeah, I understand that, I just see what the buyers.
An extra 500 on every side.
I'm like, everyone's corporation charges a fee, this is our fee. Right. So.
It's just fancier. And we're not allowed to charge processing fees for it.
But yes.
So we just change the name.
Mandatory.
No, it's, they'll catch on to us, but it's.
They will just change the name later.
They'll just, yeah, they're like, and for KW.
That's all.
It is a dealer's fee. It really, it's just, it's money that you don't need to charge. It's just,
Cleaning fee, I've seen them charge.
oh, cleaning fees.
Like all these fees. It's ridiculous.
I know, it's just not right. It's not right. Title evidence, so we don't have to worry too much about that, because that's a title company. We do want, now it will go on here to check one, right? So it says seller designates closing agent. So he gets to pick them and he pays for the owner's policy. And then the buyer pays for the lender's policy, or the buyer picks the closing agent and pays for the owner's policy. And their buyer's lender's policy. We're not in Miami-Dade, but you could, if you were selling in Miami-Dade or Broward, you could pick this one. Really, all we wanna know is who picks the closing agent?
Who have that?
Who
You are
wants
the lead
control?
We want.
I will have them pick the seller. If it's how buyer. I will
Whatever
have the-
side you have, you want control. That's who pays for it. You pick it, your person pays for it. You get reasonable rates, but that's the control. That's the control of how the closing goes. It's really about control. I know it's traditional in
Yeah, I'm
Broward
telling
for the
you.
buyer to pick. I know it's traditional in Palm Beach for the seller to pick, but if I want control, I'm picking. Because if I can run down the hall to level 10, I have control. I have no control over other title companies. They won't pick up the phone. I'm talking to clerks and stuff. I can't go in there and stomp my feet and turn blue in the face, hold my breath and turn blue in the face, which is very effective in here.
so in our case, we would say the buyer shall designate, in your case, you would say seller.
Right. Yeah, whoever wants control. So if I'm the listing agent, I want control.
Yeah, but if it's weird, because it happened to me in here, like you say, West Palm, it's like the seller pick the title, that's they haven't in mind.
Whatever you want.
And then I told no, but my buyer wants to pick his title company.
Everything's negotiable and you got your buyer to pay.
Yeah, I get my buyer to
Yeah.
pay the title company, and he will pay the whole things for
And did you
you
pick
guys.
level 10?
No, he paid
He
his,
paid his own.
back another, yeah.
So everything's negotiable. If they wanna negotiate, fine, we're good. Survey. If it's on land. And if there's financing, the lender will automatically order the survey with the title company. But if it's cash, you have to ask, do you want a survey? There's an addendum too. But you have to ask, if it's cash and there's land, if the house is sitting on land. Then you have to ask your buyer, do you want should I order a survey? Now, if the house sold within the last 2 or 3 years and it was a cash deal, I would probably ask the other agent. And I would put it on the contract that the seller will provide a survey. Because if he sold in the last 2 or 3 years and he's got a survey, give it to me. Right? Why not? If it's capped. I'd be like, you want a survey? And it goes on page 11.
Ah, okay, you put down.
I would put it
they
on there.
provided the.
I know when they bought the house, so I'll know the survey is pretty recent. But that's only in cash. If it's financing, we can't. If it's a condo, do you need a survey?
No.
No,
Can some townhouses be condos? Yes.
No.
Yeah.
No. No, they could have condo bylaws, but that has nothing to do with the
But
land.
they put in some text in there, right?
Yeah, so if it's a condo, there's no land. There's no land. If it's a townhouse, that's a condo, because there are townhouses that are condo, there's no land, so you don't need a survey, because they don't own the land. But they're condos, and they look like townhouses. Who's in Boynton Beach? You know what in Boynton Beach? Palm Beach Gardens, you know what a coach home is, a carriage home, coach home? You know where it's a unit, and then there's a garage, and there's another unit on top of the garage,
yeah,
and then
yeah.
so they don't own the land.
Ah, the cost.
It's really weird, yeah, they don't own the land. They're considered
it's
condo,
good,
but it looks like a townhouse, but it's not. Cause one's built on top of the other, kind of like, but it looks like they have a garage and a townhouse, but they're not. No, yours are, you might have coach homes in White Cliff
We have condos,
with a garage,
yeah,
that's a coach home. It's a
But-
condo jurisdiction, but if I had to describe it in the MLS, I would say coach home, carriage home or coach home.
yeah, so we would put it as,
But a condo, yeah,
yeah,
well, there's type and then there's the bylaws, so it's condo bylaws. But I wouldn't put townhouse, I would put coach home,
well, we have townhouses as
yeah,
well,
but that's different.
yeah, they're completely different, that's.
But anyway, so you would need to have a survey. Okay, what else? Home warranty. Who determines if at closing you get a home warranty?
If it's a loan. If it's a loan,
No,
You ask
if the
your
buyer
buyers,
wants it, they'll let.
so you wanna buy a home warranty? Well, what do we do?
or get on Jacob's little
What-
flyer.
No applicable.
No, our agents are trained to put NA,
And
and it's so wrong.
yeah, right, because we have
It's
to ask
so
him.
wrong. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, and even if they said they wanted a home warranty, I would put no. Now, here's why. If, I do wanna know that they want, it, but I wouldn't put it here.
Okay.
Right? I would wait until we have the inspection,
To then just,
and then, cause it's a used house, right? Is something gonna go wrong?
Yeah.
Especially in the first year. So once we do the inspection, if there's nothing major, just like, oh, the hot water heater is near its useful, the end of its useful life, and the dishwasher is like just holding on. I would ask the seller to pay for the home warranty. I already know my buyer wants it because we had that discussion here. But at that point, I would have the seller pay for the home warranty. Because then it covers everything inside the house. And I don't have to worry about repairs.
And then that
So
would
I
be
put the
the-
seller, so I do an addendum after
that's
the
what I was asking
inspection.
you, after inspection.
And I
you have to
do-
put it Because it's supposed to Before
And
we
we
are
have
executing.
repairs and due to the inspection report, because it's like, this is old, it's working, but it's old and rusty. I'm like, all right, that's fine. Are we okay with just paying for the home warranty? I don't need you to repair it. I don't want you to replace anything. I just want a home warranty. Not to exceed $600. I saw, I was like, sure. Then my buyer was gonna pay for it anyway. They wanted it. We discussed it here. I already know. So the seller says, oh, I'm not gonna pay all 600. Well, how about half? Did I still do good for my buyer?
Yeah.
But I have to know here how much I can get away with. So I asked it here and then I explained what I'm going to do. I said, you know what? Let's wait for the inspection. I'll try to get the seller to pay for the whole thing. If not, we'll figure a way to get it taken care of. That's a fabulous ordinance, so I can figure it out. But I have the conversation here and then I put NA.
Okay.
So isn't it bad?
I have a conversation because I want to know how much I can get away with at the end of the inspection,
How much you say don't has to?
not to exceed 600.
Wow.
You know what a home warranty is?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me explain.
What is kind of, because $600?
Okay, so it's a 1-year policy and they will renew it every year, because once you get it, you want to keep it. So it's a 1-year policy, $600, and it covers plumbing, electrical, all your appliances, AC, hot water heater, so everything on the inside of the house, doesn't count plumbing outside. You can add pool and outside plumbing, you can add all that on, but for the base price of 600. And every time you call for service, it's $75.
Okay.
And they fix or replace. So let's say the dishwasher croaks, it was already 10 years old. They're gonna come out and try to fix it, and they're like, oh my God, I can't fix this. You get a new dishwasher. How much is a new dishwasher?
500.
$200, $300, $400, $500, did it pay for the home warranty? How happy is my buyer?
Oh, yeah. And you just have to pay the
You just pay
75?
75
Right.
for a discipline.
Okay.
So if it's plumbing and electrical at the same time, it's 75, because it's 75 for plumbing and 75 for that.
Oh, okay.
But trust me, on an old, it even covers a garage door opener.
Don't cover.
It does.
It's covered, okay.
So, I would put NA and then still put the 600?
No, you put NA,
Okay,
and then when you do the addendum,
okay,
you can put those words in.
okay.
So like my house is about 20 years old. And in the first year, my AC went twice. My hot water heater went. My hot. I
You
said
will
AC, and it
continue.
sounded like Siri. So he's listening.
That's scary.
You know, she listens 5 seconds before, which is like the weirdest thing. How is she recording everything 5 seconds before?
Well, she's always recording.
She's always recording,
always
yeah.
recording, yeah.
Anyway, so my hot water heater went, and that was about $1,000 replacement. It was done. I paid $75. So AC, hot water. Oh, and then I wanted to replace the thermostat, which would have cost me like 150, not much, but he did it for 75 parts and everything. I'm like, come on. So it's so worth it.
What is it 75, is it deductible?
That's a deductible for each discipline. Yeah, it's a service call, not deductible. It's a service call for fix or replace,
Okay.
repair or replace.
But the,
I use American Home Shield. There's others out there.
but the seller, it will just pay for 1 year.
It just pays for the year.
And
Once
then
my
with
buyer,
me,
if my buyer
it's up
makes
to
2 or
you.
3 calls,
If
if
you
my
want to
buyer.
spend
will
it,
do it.
I get it.
That's the home warranty's job to keep it going, not mine.
Oh, okay, perfect.
That's not my job.
So if we refer like American Home Shield, could we get a referral fee from them?
Yeah, I think it's $50.
Okay.
We used to have it. No one ever asked me about it.
Wow.
So yeah.
Americans with me.
American Home Shield, just commercial on TV.
Yeah.
Yes, but the
I don't
plumbing
like
is going and she's just sitting there laughing. And I'm
Yeah.
Okay. Special assessments. We gotta speed it up, because we're still on page 2.
Four, no, we are in the court.
4.
We almost,
We got 8 more pages.
no, but this is the more important actually. Until
These are the going away. So
Mhm.
special assessment. This has nothing to do with homeowner or condo associations. This is special assessments for county or state or city. So it says public body. I'm gonna step up again. At closing, seller shall pay full amount of liens imposed by a public body. Does not, says it right here, does not include condo or homeowner associations. Okay, so you have option A, seller pays the installments prior to closing and payer shall pay any leftover installments after closing.
Yeah.
Or seller shall pay everything.
Yeah, that we have to put.
So
So,
let's say, they're going from well and septic to, city water. And sewage. Okay, so the assessment started before closing. But they're gonna continue another 2 or 3 years after closing. Which one would you pick? For A or B?
A.
Seller should pay for the whole thing, even though the buyer moved into the house and gonna
No,
pay it.
No.
No.
no, has to be the.
You see,
higher.
because the buyer is moving in and going to enjoy it after
whole
closing. It only makes sense that he pays for his portion after
the
closing, but the seller has to pay. Now, if it happened that this is leftovers from 5-10 years ago, then your seller should pay the whole thing,
The big,
which is B. I'm sorry, so A is half and half, B is pays everything. And if leave it blank, which one is it?
Okay.
should be selected.
If neither box is checked, then it'll be A. 50-50, or whatever the amounts are.
So what is an example of that?
Water, sewage, electrical,
Oh, so it's not like
new
construction or
streets.
anything.
Yeah, new street.
no,
Okay,
no. It will be some kind of public body,
Like it's a.
paved streets, we have an acreage, not all the streets are paved. They'll get an assessment if they want it paved or sewage or something like that.
But these assessments will be with any type of property.
Well, it's.
Is that,
Could be.
is that what the estoppel reviews?
No, that's homeowner associations. No, those are different. That's homeowner association estoppel assessments.
Okay.
This is public body assessments. Public roads, schools, anything like that.
It's crazy how many agents actually could be. And first of all, there's nothing going on, no assessments, and they put B, and the seller's like, nope, I want A, and that's like a big friction. You know,
Uh-huh. Because assessments will get caught. By a good closing agent.
Mhm.
But you don't wanna take that chance. So if I'm on the buy side, I would want the seller to pay for it. Of
Yeah,
course.
Yeah, because.
You can try it, but
then
it
when
won't
you're on
slip
the
past
south
me.
side, you're gonna like, no, you're changing it,
Yes, yeah, so if something is found.
right?
But how do we know if there's any assessments that the seller is aware of?
You just asking to the listing agents when you, well, that's.
No,
like-
if I had the seller, how would I know if there was an assessment?
In
FICA?
this
You
is-
have to write it into
Hmm?
the.
Yeah.
Seller's disclosure. It says it right on there, and if they lie, I'm free. Because I'm audited, right? It's like, you lied, you pay for it.
Even when they fill it out like I don't know,
Then he doesn't know. But if they
Ah,
live there,
okay.
they would know.
yeah.
They-
Yeah, because I have a one, that, yeah, they always know, because I ask him, and you have some assessments coming, yeah, $50,000 is coming for repair the whole building in there and say.
But that's condo, that's association
What-
assessment, that's not this. That is
Okay.
not this. That's on the association addendum.
Okay.
Not here.
Not
This is
now.
public body. It says not. It tells you right here. Does not include condo or homeowner associations.
That meaning they will repair the street
This is
inside the
street-
association for the,
Public,
okay.
not the association.
Where would you go to find an assessment?
So it could be in a couple of places, but it should be recorded someplace. Like, if it's public body assessments, it should be included someplace. It
And you
should be
said
recorded.
usually the
Like
closing agent finds that?
Your closing agent should find it.
But online, is there?
Not necessarily.
Because they don't put in there.
Some are included and some aren't. Yeah, you have to ask your seller. You're just gonna have to rely on them. This one's kind of iffy. Cause some of them are recorded and some, so you gotta be careful. Okay, rate on gas. Okay, so these are disclosures. So these are all the disclosures that we have, right? Rate on gas. If someone, it comes from up north, are they nervous about, oh, you're from Massachusetts, are you worried about rate on gas? We don't have it here.
I'm so worried. Still,
We don't have foundations. There's nothing to creep up,
as long as there's granite in my sight, I am scared.
but we just have slabs. Of course, a sinkhole will devour your slab, but there's nothing underneath it, so. If you have a. If we have a basement, you might wanna do, but,
It's in the water too.
yeah, we have clean water, so.
Everybody drinks clean water here.
Do we have basements in South Florida?
I'm married.
Yeah, we do.
No, I think a property a couple months ago where it had a whole
Wharton
basement.
Beach, Wharton Beach has a whole subdivision. All 41 houses.
So,
Glen Ridge,
Really?
I think it's called Glen Ridge, yeah.
they
They had
really-
They were built in the last 20 years. Little subdivision with a basement, with a walkout.
Because they need space to put stuff.
There is a ridge, right? You guys know the ridge that goes along 95. It starts, the further south, it's on the west side of 95 and on Lantana South on High Ridge Road. And then as you kind of go up towards Northwood, it's on the east side in Northwood. There's a ridge and those houses have basements. The ridge is a real ridge.
Even Lake Osborne off a high ridge.
And they have, they're up
They
on
have
the ridge.
split levels.
They're built
Split
up,
levels
yep.
on the outside. You're walking upstairs to go through the front door.
And you, yeah,
And then you do have an upstairs.
They don't have
downstairs.
walls.
So it makes you feel
They're
like
on-
you're.
yeah, it's built,
Midwest.
it's built on that ridge. The ridge is pretty cool, yes. So we do have, so if someone says I want a basement, go to Wharton Beach. Nice basement. Anyway, right on gas, I've had one person, of course, from up north, that says I want to bring on gas and inspection, I'm like, here, go to Home Depot, get the box, you're good. Permits. Permits is good. That's why I don't work well with fires and everything we talk about fires. Well, I do, but I learned real quick. Permits disclosure. So we have 3 locations in our contract that talks about the seller closing out and satisfying all permits. But in not one area does it say that they have to pay to get it done. Like, I'll close it out, but who's gonna pay for it? It never says the seller's gonna pay for it. So I don't want you to put on page 11 that the seller has to close out permits. I just want you to say they have to pay to cure it. And I'll give you the word in a minute. Because otherwise you're repeating everything that's already in here. So don't put on there, seller's responsible for closing out. I'll tell you what to say at the end. Mold. Well, see, here's the opposite of right on gas. Every house has mold. It's no big deal.
You're on that, okay?
You're in Florida, everybody has mold.
Welcome to California.
Everyone has mold. Don't get nervous. It's the black mold that's
Yeah, I
the
know.
problem. So mold is mold, we're good, but the black mold might be a problem. So if you see black mold coming down, like it looks like fur coming down the walls. Looks like velvet, looks like black velvet, right? It looks like velvet. Something moose, yeah. Pretty ugly. But you'll need a mold, oh, we're ready for mold inspection. Flood zone, so these are all addendums, and this is explaining what they are. This is kind of interesting, look at 229. And read that, just read that line. What's it say?
Energy,
Fire acknowledges receipt.
229. No,
229,
energy
energy brochure, and then what does it say?
provider acknowledges receipt of Florida energy efficiency.
What does that mean?
You
We
need
have
to
to
set
get
it
it.
Something, so what do you have to give them?
What you receive.
The energy brochure. You have to include that with their contract, because this contract says they received it, and so if they didn't receive it, could they back out? My agent didn't give me the, according to line 229, my agent didn't give me the Florida Energy Efficiency Rating Information brochure.
That could be a reason that.
Yeah, he didn't provide it. You didn't perform.
They get their money back?
Yeah, you could, they could,
At any point?
maybe. Just give it to them. Attach it to all your. Just throw it in, there's nothing to sign, it's an actual brochure with three pictures, shows a fridge. It's provided, it's attached to your contract,
If they don't have it.
because it says they got it. But be careful. Lead-based paint, if it's built before 1978, we need a disclosure.
Okay.
Built in 78.
No,
You don't,
Yeah.
No, but they
are
say,
you sure?
yes, they need it because it's 70.
No, that the paint wasn't put in 77.
Mhm.
Chris, how do you build, how do you paint something before it's built?
Well, you wouldn't get a COE, the certificate of occupancy, the COO, until 78, but it could have been painted in December and you got it in January. If you're not sure. No big deal, right? You're not sure? I always wondered what things go in 78. First of all, I always wonder about kids eating lead-based paint, but other than that, I would include it if I'm not sure. But you can kind of tell. Homeowner association. I don't know why this one's bold. Homeowner association or community disclosure. Buyer should not execute this contract until he's received and read the homeowner disclosure. It does not say homeowner docs. It does not say anything else about the so it just says they have to read the addendum. A lot of agents will say, well, you didn't provide the docs. No, I provided the addendum. The addendum does have a place in there for the documents, but this just says you have to provide it. Tax disclosure, FERPTA. FERPTA's already in, oh, FERPTA. What's it stand for?
That's a word.
It's right there, Foreign Investment and Real Property Tax Act, FERPTA. If either party is not here legally, like they don't have a TIN or EIN or social security number. Either party, now you're the only way, you have to ask. You have a social security number, you file taxes, you have to ask, you can't guess. Yeah, don't assume it. Now, if you're talking to the lender and they're like, oh yeah, I just need their tax return and stuff, but then I already know they have a tax return, so I'm okay. But otherwise you have to ask. Cause it says the seller shall inform the buyer in writing if the seller is a foreign person. But I gotta let my buyer know too, because my buyer in the future is gonna be a seller and they're gonna get hit with this tax, so I let everybody know about it. So there's no addendum for this. It's just a statement. There is no addendum. So don't let another agent, and this is where the CRISP, remember we talked about CRISP earlier? There's a CRISP addendum, and every agent wants to add the CRISP addendum in, and I have to send it back and say, I can't use it. She goes, well, they're FERPTA. I said, well, FERPTA's in the contract. Did you read it? I don't say it like that, but I do say it's already covered. Don't worry about it. This CRISP addendum does not work. So I'll just send them to that. Seller's disclosure. Oh, let me add one more thing on here about FERPTA. So this line over here. Except as otherwise disclosed in writing, seller has received no written or verbal notice from a government entity or agency as to. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Advice to seek legal counsel. If they have any questions, you cannot answer it. You will not answer any questions regarding FERPTA. They can talk to an attorney, a tax person, or an accountant. But you cannot answer those questions unless you are a CPA or an attorney. And if you are, let me know. But you cannot answer those questions. I don't care if you did another transaction. I just don't care because you do not know their tax situation. You cannot answer it. Even if you know the answer, don't. You don't know their tax situation. So don't answer it. That's really important in here. Seller's disclosure. Does the seller have to disclose known defects in the property?
yeah,
Yes.
Of course. Does it have to be in writing?
Yeah. Well,
According to the state of Florida, do they have to disclose known defects? According to the state of Florida, does it have to be in writing? Only got one other answer.
No.
No. You're half right. No. They don't. But to protect you, do we want it in writing?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Right? We want it in writing. That's our company policy. So if it's a Keller Williams listing from these offices, there will be a seller's disclosure. If it's from another office, can we dictate that they provide you with a seller's disclosure?
Yeah.
No. You can ask.
Okay.
You can make it part of the contract. So on page 11, when it lists all the addendums, and the last one that says other, you could put an X and put seller's disclosure to be provided within 3 days of acceptance or something like that. You can ask for it. If it's a deal breaker, back off.
So I have a situation where I listed something in Boca, put a seller's disclosure in.
Let's stop it now, because I can talk about this for the class.
So we have a seller's disclosure on file, but there was a situation that happened after we went under contract. There was a leak in the master bath and caused issues, blah, blah, blah. I am required to update the seller's disclosure.